Have you been dreaming of travel but not sure where to go or how to begin planning? Well, you found the right podcast.
Welcome to Theme Parks and Passports, the travel podcast for every family ready to explore the world, one destination at a time. I'm Melissa Sanchez, travel addict, wife, and mom of 2 big kids. Along with planning all my family adventures, I've been helping others realize their travel dreams through my company, Spellbound Vacations, since 2010.
And I'm Heidi Mackey, a travel enthusiast with a passion for geek and pulp culture. I'm also a wife and a mom of a spicy tween. Since 2017, I've been creating vacation memories for families through my business, House of Mackey Travel. Join us as we share stories, tips, and talk to those in the know to inspire your family's next great adventure.
Because creating family travel memories can happen in any stage of life. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on the first episode of Theme Parks and Passports. I'm Melissa Sanchez and I'm here with Heidi Mackey. How you doing today, Heidi?
I'm great. How are you doing, Melissa?
I am good. We are recording this first episode on a Friday afternoon. So it's really not anything better than a Friday afternoon when you've been working all week. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I totally agree. I can't wait to start the weekend. Yay! This kind of starts the weekend. I'm calling it. This is the weekend start.
All right. Weekend starts here. So let's talk about this podcast of ours. So as I mentioned, this is our first episode. So we want to make sure you guys get to know us a little bit and what this podcast is all about. So Heidi, you want to talk a little bit about what you feel like this podcast is going to mean to everyone, what it means to us?
Sure. I'm super excited that we finally got a chance to record this first episode. You and I have been talking about this for a little bit and are excited to share a lot of our experiences, not only as professionals, but as moms who have been planning travel for our families since they became families, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that our podcast speaks to people in a way that they feel like we can relate to them at the very least, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I hope that what I would like this podcast to bring to our listeners who want to know a little bit about family travel and what it kind of means to us. And for me personally, I've gone through quite a few transitions in family travel. I've got those quote unquote big kids, both of them in their 20s. My husband and I have been married for almost 25 years. So we're sort of halfway empty nesters right now. So we have gone through that traveling as a young couple, traveling with the babies, traveling with the toddlers, school age teenagers, and now traveling with the young adults and traveling without the young adults. So family travel can look so different in so many different ways. And I feel like I'm so excited to be able to share our experiences and our trips with everyone. And I know you're in a different place in your life, family-wise, than I am, which I would assume means you're a little bit in a different place with family travel than I am.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going through some of the things that you did 10 years ago. She's just pushed her way into the tweens. I don't think we can officially call her a tween at age 10, but she's getting there. And
Close enough.
Close enough. She's the mentality of a 21-year-old, but the body of a tween. We're in a different part, but we're only a family of 3. So I'm sure our vacations look very different than yours do when it comes to like even logistics of things. With us being able to fit in a different size cabin on a cruise than you guys would necessarily be in even. So we can put her on the couch still and have a king size bed, which is kind of nice.
Yes. Well, we've actually transitioned sort of back to that at this point because our kids are big enough where there is no more sharing a bed like when they were little. So more often than not, when we travel as a full family, they've got their own room. So
wow.
Whether if we're on a cruise ship, they'll have their own cabin. Now, personally, I prefer to have connecting cabins, but the kids are like, Mom, we don't need connecting cabins. We're grown-ups, but we all know 20 years old isn't really a grown-up, but whatever. So yeah, it definitely looks a little bit different when we travel to some of the theme parks. Sometimes we try to get those villa type rooms where there might be 2 bedrooms, where there might be 2 beds and a pull-out sofa. So yeah, it definitely logistically as they get older, and especially when you have a boy and a girl.
Oh yeah.
Because if I had 2 girls, they'd be sharing a bed. There'd be
That
none
was
of this nonsense of 2 rooms, you know?
even now, my sister and I, as full grown adults, like I don't think it even occurs to us that we have to have a room with 2 separate beds because we're always like sharing blow ups or sharing a queen size while my parents were in the other. Yeah. I never thought
Right,
of it that way.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So it's really different depending on whether you have kids that are the same sex, depending on the age of the kids. And then you throw in whether or not you're traveling with extended family. You know, are you traveling with grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles? I know when we travel with our grandparents, usually what we'll do is we'll put 1 kid in each room, like one in our room, one in the grandparents' room. But there's all kinds of challenges with that, and also joys with that of sharing these huge family vacations or trips with more than just your spouse or your partner or your kids. So, I mean, family travel just encompasses so many aspects of travel in general, really.
Yeah. And I think I would even say you and I talked about this at one point that family travel starts almost as the honeymoon.
Mm.
You have created a new family. It's you and your partner and everything from that point forward, whether your family grows or not, that's really you two are the roots of your branch a family
Yeah.
now. So, it goes from that and that loops back around to what you were talking about with becoming the empty nesters.
Hmm.
So being that root and going through that whole process um is different and exciting. Like there's similarities to a honeymoon and a empty nester travel, but I'm
Yeah.
sure the feeling is very different even. Like you're just in a different place in life, different mindset.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely in some ways full circle, right? Because you're back to potentially just the two of you traveling. But I think for when you get to the empty nest stage of things and the family travel in that sense, I think one of the biggest challenges that you can come across as an empty nester is guilt. And that's not something, you think about when as your kids are growing and you're creating these bucket lists of things you're going to do. And my kids are going to be out of the house and I can't wait. And we're going to go, travel through Europe. We're going to take that, transatlantic cruise, whatever it might be. But then you start planning and you're like, oh, well, the kids would love this. Oh, my son would love this. My daughter would love to go shopping here, or these water slides on this cruise ship are so amazing. The kids would have such a great time. And that guilt starts to seep in. And it's a really big challenge to overcome. And even now, my son left for college. Oh gosh, I'm going to get these dates wrong, but 2019, fall of 2019, and my daughter went in 2022 to college.
Changes every year. You're allowed to not know the numbers.
It does. It does. Especially when you have two and you're trying to keep track of both of them. But, the first trip we took without either of them, I think I spent at least 80% of that trip saying, William would have loved this. Olivia would have loved this. Like, oh, maybe next time they can come with us. And there was that feeling of trying to get used to doing things as not this full family unit of 4 and back to that family unit of 2, at least for this particular trip, and getting over that guilt and feeling bad. I'll tell you though, 2 years of traveling without either of them, that guilt is gone.
You're over it. I'm totally over it.
Gone. It's gone. But what do you find as one of your, because that was one of my biggest challenges when it came to that empty nest travel and traveling without the big kids. But what do you find is your biggest challenge traveling with just a single tween or a single child?
Honestly, it's a little bit entertainment because there isn't a companion to keep her company. We're her companions to keep her company.
Right.
So if we wanted to, we do take my mom does join us on some trips. But hanging out with grandma is really fun, but she's not going to go down the water slide with you, so like there have been some barriers where kids clubs aren't a big thing that she enjoys because she knows nobody.
Right.
So some of the interesting things that have come up in our travels is maybe traveling with another family or perhaps having a friend come along with us and the logistics of trying to figure out like how to get that friend to come with us, which I'm sure is going to be more as she gets older and as other kids get older, that's probably going to become part. So that's, not necessarily having a stranger travel with us, but having somebody else's kid travel with us, I think is going to be part of our rotation. But yeah, just that making sure that we can do things that include her.
Yeah.
When you go to an all-inclusive resort, you can't necessarily take somebody under 18 to every piece of it. So it's also managing our expectations as to what we're really going to be able to do. And if it's just the three of us, yeah, we could do the adult things, but we either need to hire a babysitter on site or we have to do it by ourselves and the other partner has to stay home. So, or not home, but stay with my daughter in the room. So that's a little bit, I would say that's the logistical thing we fall into as having a single child versus having people, because at least they could keep each other company. Going to the pool too. She wants one of us in the pool with her because then we'll play with her, and as she gets older, that attraction to other kids, that organic attraction that they have to just play with whoever's around them starts to get less and less and less. So she's a little bit more book and museums than she is like playgrounds and pools at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally get that. I remember those days because even with two, they didn't necessarily, they're 2.5 years apart and they're a boy and a girl. So there were times where we would travel. Disney Cruise Line is a perfect example when we would sail on them and they weren't in the same age group for the kids club. And it would be like, do they want to go? My son was more likely to go than my daughter as they got older. And then when they did hit the same age group for the kids clubs, teen clubs, they didn't necessarily want to hang out with each other, So we even with the two of them, we still sometimes would run into those challenges of making sure that they're entertained, making sure they have activities that they're doing on an individual basis versus us being like, go with your brother, go with your sister kind of thing, But I think one of the other things that we have really has been sort of unexpected as I've gotten older and traveling with my older kids is how much fun it is traveling with I'm just going to call them the older kids again. This past summer, I chose to do a cruise for my 50th birthday. And I told both the kids, you're coming with me. This will be the last trip that I force you on. But this is your gift to me is this trip. And we traveled to England. We sailed out of Southampton. We did a 7-night cruise on a Royal Caribbean ship. And then we did 2 post nights in London. And it was so lovely to be able to just enjoy the full trip as a family of 4 again. And for us to sit down each night and have dinner together. And to be honest with you, like go to some of the trivia things and share a glass of wine or, something along those lines that really previously was just my husband and I doing and the kids off doing their own thing. But now they're big enough to do those adult things. They could come to the comedy shows. They could appreciate the museums we were going to and things like that. And that really was, it was such a wonderful extra to that 50th birthday trip, really, was how much we had in common with our kids and how we were able to share all these experiences and everyone was enjoying every piece of it.
That sounds amazing. It's
It was.
My dad used to say, he would tell us all the time that he loved us, of course. He goes, but there were times where he would just look at us. He goes, you know what? I really like you. And it's like,
Yes.
and they were more travel companions than family at that point.
Mhm.
Would you say almost in a way? Like
No,
that
for
different
sure.
type of experience.
Yeah, they were because we didn't have to, on this particular trip, we didn't really have to worry about, okay, Olivia's not old enough to do this show tonight because she's under 18, or, William doesn't really want to go do this or whatever it might be. I felt confident planning this trip where I knew everyone. And I made a point, and I think this is really important just to kind of, as a side note, when you're planning family travel, and once your kids reach a certain age, I'd say almost like that grade school age, I think it's so important to involve everyone in the planning of your family travels. And
I agree.
even if it's just what's one thing you want to do, what's one bit of food you want to eat, you're going to be in Italy, okay, we want to have pizza, we want to make sure that we do that, or whatever it might be. And I think with this particular trip, one of the great things about it was involving them and sending them ideas. Look at these excursions we can do in these ports, which ones do you guys like, instead of me saying for everything, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. It was more of a collaborative effort. And I think that was one of the great things about traveling on this particular trip.
Oh, it sounds amazing. I mean, the trip sounds amazing. Don't get me wrong, but the feel of the trip,
Yeah.
the logistics aside, that it sounds like you had an amazing family trip, which actually brings me to another question for you. Why do you think that family travel matters?
I think family travel it's just so important. And I'll use my own family again as an example. Having a boy and a girl as they were growing up, well, they were friends. And when they were home together, like they, sometimes they would play together, whatever, but they're very different personalities. And so very, different friend groups, different sports, different, all of those things, different schools even. And when we would go away, and it was just the four of us, it was just the four of us. And the two of them would spend so much time together, and we were creating these lasting memories as a family of four versus, okay, mom's running to cheerleading with Olivia and dad's running to Boy Scouts with William. And then this weekend, mom and dad have an event, so we're getting a babysitter, and you know what I mean? Like, you're all over the place. Those family travel and those vacations, those experiences, those adventures, I feel like really brings a family together. It really strengthens a bond. And whether it's your family of four or multi-gen, bringing the grandparents in, bringing the cousins along with you. I think that is I just think it's so important. And it doesn't need to be this big, let's, do Walt Disney World and spend, crazy amounts of money. It could literally be a long weekend going to the beach, going to Cape Cod, going to the Jersey Shore, but just getting away as a family and doing things together, I think just creates a stronger bond. It creates a stronger relationship with you and your kids, with each other, with your grandparents, the whole shebang. But why do you think so? I mean, do you agree with that?
1000%. I think that it does bring back that core. I mean, there's so many things going on in life now that you really can end up in a house of like four roommates. And
Mhm.
with a cook and a cleaner and and somebody who leaves every day. But the family vacation really takes all of the outside world away and brings you together. And I think I agree with that 100%. I think something else that matters for me too, at least when I'm planning my family vacations, is that I want to make sure that my daughter has a sense of the world is bigger than she is.
Yes.
That there are places that are different, places that are new, places that are exciting, and also help to foster that sense of adventure so that as she becomes an independent person, she's more willing to try a new adventure than feel fear in doing something that's outside of her bubble.
No, absolutely. And I think it is so important, just travel in general. I mean, family travel, yes, but travel in general to experience other cultures, experience other countries, and know that just my little town in northern New Jersey, that there's so much more to this world. Like, it expands your mind, it broadens your horizons, it lets you learn about other people. My daughter just flew to Ireland or Northern Ireland by herself. It was the first time she flew internationally alone, but she did it and it was great. And what an incredible experience for her to learn how to travel by herself internationally, but also to experience what she did being in another country. And I think all of that is so important.
I think one more thing I want to add to this, and then we probably need to wrap up for today, is that I think travel too, and the reason why it's, starting kids early with travel is also it's a lesson in patience, because you do need to understand that, it's going to be amazing fun once you get there, but the patience, like not only just the leading up to the trip, the excitement of the trip, but being able to once you start traveling, your kids see all of it, you can do all the planning yourself on a computer while they're at school. But once you guys are in the airport, they see it all. So they see how to interact with other people, how a process may go smoothly, how a process may not go smoothly. They're kind of going with you on a life journey along with the vacation portion of it too.
No, absolutely. There's just so many lessons to be learned when it comes to just travel in general, whether it's family, whether it's alone, whether it's with friends. There's so many things you can learn. But I think you're right. I think we're getting sort of towards the end of our time here today. But one of the things that Heidi and I plan to do at the end of each episode is a little segment called Would You Rather? So Heidi, what is your would you rather thought this week?
So let's say you're in the middle of Paris. Would you rather make your way to a patisserie or would you rather make your way to a cafe?
I think my answer to that is it depends on the time of day.
Okay.
Because for me, if it was morning, I would, well, you know what? That's a tough call. I'm not really sure. I think if it's morning, I may go to the patisserie, get that chocolate croissant. And then if it's a cafe, I may, afternoon lunch, late afternoon with that baguette and a glass of champagne, of course.
Yeah.
How about you?
I think I would have to agree with you that it kind of has to do with what I'm in the mood for. So I think I would swap it, believe it or not. I think I would go for the baguettes and maybe a chunk of cheese and a nice hot cup of tea for breakfast. And then perhaps treat myself to something sweet like a pain au chocolat or, a chocolate croissant and a glass of champagne later. So same, but opposite. I feel like that may be part of the theme
for this.
Theme for this podcast is the same, but completely swapped.
Yes, exactly. The same, but different.
Yes, exactly.
Well, this has been great, and we look forward to everyone joining us again.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit subscribe on Spotify or your favorite podcast player. And while you're there, feel free to leave us a rating and review.
Check out the show notes for links to Spellbound Vacations LLC and House of Mackey Travel. Until next time, keep living your best travel life.